Welcome back to my YouTube channel and welcome back to WNTN Radio Boston. I'm your host, Viviana Dragani, and the show is Itali-Echo, the only Italian-American bilingual show in the Greater Boston. Today, my guest is author Monique Angel. She grew up in New Zealand and became a journalist. Her hobbies were gardening, poetry, and writing children's books. Later in life, unfortunately, she suffered a hemorrhagic stroke during her second pregnancy, and then she moved to California with 5 young kids following the birth of her twins. Monique started writing Asperia First Light in 2013 while sitting in carpool and daydreaming about different characters that would flit through her head. So that's a very interesting creative process. Welcome to our show.
Hi, Viviana.
Hi. So, what is your novel Asperia First Light about?
It's set in a post-apocalyptic world. It's set on a world called Panacea that's pretty similar to Earth. Well, it's actually Earth, as I worked through the book and wrote. It came to me. It's Earth, but set hundreds or thousands of years into the future, and following an apocalypse. The world has been divided into communities, each with different cultures, and humankind has evolved an ability to go into another dimension, maybe a fifth dimension or a higher dimension, to commune, and they can communicate with their ancestors for wisdom and guidance. This is underpinned by the first light principle, where as long as equilibrium is maintained between the four elements, earth, air, fire, and water, then the ancestors can remain in ascension and they will in turn be rebirthed. And this adds wisdom and beauty to an unsettled world. And that's what my novel is about. And it's set in an apothecary. So we meet our main characters in the apothecary, a place of healing for animals. And our main characters are Eva Ventura, and she's the head apothecarist. Terry Ranger, who's much beloved by animals of all shapes and sizes. And Hannah Woodhead, who keeps the stove hot. Hannah Woodhead, who keeps the stove hot and the bellies full. And they heal animals that come to them from the township, and they use herbal remedies, folklore, to provide herbal remedies to the people of the township, the townspeople. And they live a pretty peaceful and calm life. So in the future, a lot of the day-to-day problems of the world that we experience, a lot of the intrusive thoughts and the chatter that affects us in our world and our lifetime today, that seems to have passed, and they live a peaceful life with the same technology, just in a different medium or form, and they live a peaceful life until a mischievous saint encourages Eva to go on a journey to rescue an animal from the wilds outside the township of Justin, where the apothecary is located. And that's the introduction to my book.
Thank you, Monique. And did you use an outline or did you let the story unfold?
Well, the story just unfolded, Viviana, because I moved here from New Zealand, and we moved here with 5 children under the age of 7, and that was quite an undertaking. And as soon as we got here, we put the children into schools, 3 schools, and so I became the mom taxi, and and I would be in the morning. Begin the drop off, and I would have, I kid you not, 1 hour to myself. So I would grab a coffee, and I would sit down, and I would put pen to paper, and I would get as much down as I could about the story that was coming to me while I was driving in carpool, and I would write, and then I would go back, and I would start the pickup, and I would sit in carpool, and I would daydream, and the characters started coming to me, Eva Ventura first, and the story just unfolded. And yeah, I had lots of time to daydream in carpool, and the story unfolded, and the book developed naturally from there. A story of inspiration and hope, I like to think.
Yeah. And do your characters grow through cooperation or adversity?
Well, they grow both through cooperation and adversity, primarily adversity. but it's cooperation that sends them off into the journey that they embark on. Because I like to think that older teenagers cooperate and uplift as they go through the world, because school can be pretty brutal. But at the end of the day, you go through the process and you come out the other side with the help of your friends that you make, the forever friends that take you through the process of growing into yourself. So my book is not a book of sending them out into the killing fields. It's one of cooperation and the adversity that they find in the journeys through life. So it's written to appeal to older teenagers and their parents, Generation X, and to baby boomers as well, who can look back and reflect on their own lives and what it meant to them way back to the school days.
Awesome. And how did you develop your main character?
So that would be Eva Ventura, and she came to me out in the part of me where fighting meets praying meets healing meets loving, and it's a part of us that exists in all of us. It's a part that we can find when we dig deep. And I suspect it came to me when I suffered a stroke when I was 31, and I was pregnant, and I was fully paralyzed, and I had to. It wasn't an option to give up. I had to fight my way back to health because I had to be there for my oldest child, who was just under 2 at the time, and for the baby that was about to come along 4 months later. So they told me, I remember when I was in the rehabilitation hospital, they said, well, we don't know if you'll walk again. I thought, right,
Yeah.
that, oh, I can't have that. And every day I woke up and it was a new day. That's when I got the beginning of the first light principle, because the first light would come into my room and I would think, how can I get better today? And I surprised them. I surprised everybody. And I surprised what I found in myself to come back to health for my oldest child and for my little unborn baby. So every day I got a little bit better, and I found that place in me where loving meets fighting meets healing, to meet the adversities that come to us in life, and we have to rise to meet the challenges. That's Eva Ventura.
You went through a lot, Monique. And what's the importance about that of maintaining some sense of humor in your life and as a writer?
Well, when you're at the whims and the mercies of fate, and when you have a stroke, you can't be. It's humbling. You have to lose your dignity, and it comes back to you. But there's some situations that you find yourself in where the only thing you can lean on is your sense of humour. And when you're also, I live alone now. I have crossed the country from California to live in Texas and be a writer, and it's a crazy lifestyle. So I need to laugh at a lot of things, and I talk to my children who are now teenagers, and yeah, the sense of humour is where we bridge the gap and of communication between teenagers and mom. And it's been lovely to have conversations with them as teenagers and listen to their trials and their triumphs.
Absolutely. And what is the best thing about being a writer?
Being alone and knowing that you're not lonely, you're alone. And I've found as I've grown through the stages of life that I have a terrible temper, and I quite surprised myself because I always thought I was a quiet, shy thing, and I certainly was at school, but not as I've grown through the stages of life. And so I have a terrible temper and a wild vocabulary, so I can just, if a if the plot line is frustrating me, or I've come up against something in life, I can just sit here and I can cuss to the walls with no one to witness my reprehensible behaviour. And yeah, it's been enlightening how I can engage in meditation and write and entertain myself on my own.
And
And
what
and
is, yeah, and what is the best environment for you to write?
I'm sitting in my little office, which is a corner of my living space, and I have a very old laptop that's had some knocks and it's taped together with duct tape. And it doesn't have a working camera, but it suffices. I dictate my story into it, and I never know where it's going. So I have that laptop. It's my talisman, and I always work away with the coffee at my side, knowing that I can take a walk around the apartment block and find someone to talk to if I need.
Thank you. And what is the main message you would like to share with your book?
I would like to share that any adversity can be overcome and always follow your heart.
That's a great message. So thank you so much for being here today. And last question, where can we find your book?
I was going to grab a copy and encourage everybody to find my book at Barnes and Noble, on Amazon, and at your local indie bookstore.
That's a beautiful cover. Do you want to say a couple of words about it?
Well, it was designed by a local artist here in Austin, Texas, Richard Samuel, and he did a wonderful job at depicting a challenge that two of my main characters had to face. As you can see, it's a large seahorse looming over a little boat, a skiff, and he and I worked together to bring this book to fruition, and it's just a wonderful feeling.
Yes,
In Canada, it can also be found at the bookstore Chapters Indigo, and it's soon to be taken to the stores in Europe.
great. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Viviana.